Hi again. My name is Kelly Megan of KM Consultancy Services and KnowledgeMarket.ie. I'm a Microsoft Office training instructor, and I've teamed up with Trained In to bring you a series of 3 webinars called A Taste of PowerPoint. And this is the second of those 3 webinars. So yesterday, these are the slides that we created. We created 5 in all. So we worked through creating a title slide. We then created bullet points. Then we did a 2 content slide so that we were showing indented bullets. We looked at creating a table, and we looked at creating smart art. Now, I mentioned yesterday that I'm not actually creating a presentation per se. So there's no real connection between these slides. All that I'm doing is making sure that you know how to use the individual slides, etc. Excuse me. And I'm going to continue that today. So I'm going to start off by adding in a new slide. And by the way, for anyone who wasn't here yesterday, I'm using Office 365, so it's 365 PowerPoint. But what I'm doing will work for PowerPoint 2010, 2013, 2016. So I'm going to start on a new slide. I've made sure I'm clicked on my last slide, so the next one that I add in will go in after it. And I'm going to click on the top half of this button here, and that's going to put in the title and content slide. So today I'm going to start with a chart. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the Insert Chart button and just give that a moment to open up. And it brings up this area here. So you can see I've got a choice of the different styles of charts that I want. And then within each chart, I've got a different style of subtype. Now I'm just going to leave everything on the default. So it's just going to be a basic column chart, and that's what it looks like. And it's the basic clustered column chart. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now that'll take a moment to open up. And just to mention that in some versions of PowerPoint, this might look quite different. Instead of having this small chart area here, you might find that half of your screen becomes Excel and half of your screen is relegated to PowerPoint. Don't worry if it is different. It still actually works in the same way. It's just going to look different, and it's a bit strange when you see it initially. So this little box, whether you have it this way or whether you have half your screen as Excel, know that you're not actually opening up a separate Excel. This is an Excel that lives inside PowerPoint, so it ships with the program PowerPoint. And you can see this here at the top. It says Chart in Microsoft PowerPoint. It'll automatically have some text and figures written into it, because Microsoft presume that you don't necessarily know how to use Excel because you are working in PowerPoint. So they have something pre-set up. So what they're doing is they're trying to show you that if you overtype where it says Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, that whatever you overtype it with will become the legend down here at the bottom of the chart. If you overtype the words category 1 through to category 4, these row headings, it's going to become the x-axis of the chart. And obviously the figures then are going to become the columns of the chart. So I'm going to click up here, and I'm just simply going to type in, let me see, I think I'll put in Q1. And if you are used to using Excel, you might wonder, can you fill handle? You can. So I can place my cursor there onto the little node, and I can drag that across, and it will actually fill it across. So even though it's not real Excel, and it certainly isn't the full of Excel, it still has some Excel features. Now here on the left, I'm going to type in North. And you won't see it changing down here until I press enter. So as soon as I press enter, you'll see it changing down here at the bottom. I'll type in south and enter. And again, you see it here at the bottom. I'll type east and enter, and it changes there. And I'll type in west and enter, and you can see it going in there. Okay, so that's all the data that I'm going to put in. I'm going to close this down now that I've got that put in, and I'll just, excuse me, I'll just X out of that, and then I'm going to click outside of the chart. So that's how you put in your Excel data. So now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, actually, I'd like to edit it. Maybe I'd like to add in a fourth quarter. And I think as well, I might like to get rid of this chart title because I'm going to use the title box up here at the top. So how do I do this? Well, all I need to do is click back onto the chart, single click, and as soon as I click back onto the chart, that's what opens up the two contextual tabs at the top. So I've got to be in the context of the chart for these two to be here. And again, anyone who's used to Excel will recognize the buttons here because they are the same buttons you would actually find in Excel. You need to be on this chart design tab, and over here on the right of that tab, you've got a data group, and in the data group is going to be this edit data button. Now, usually I just go straight for the top half, but just to show you, if you go for the bottom half, you're going to get two choices. That's the top half choice there, and that's what I usually go for. The second choice is to edit the data in Excel itself. So in other words, open up the separate program Excel. There is absolutely no purpose to doing that. So I just keep going with the original little data box. I just click onto that. It'll open it back up and I work away in here. I don't need the full of Excel because you don't have access to all those features in here anyway. So I want to add in a new quarter. So I'm simply going to click into E1 and I'm going to type in Q4. And when I press enter, you're going to see that that blue outline has extended itself automatically. And whatever is inside that outline, that is what will appear on the chart. So if something is outside that outline, if I typed in something over here, for instance, it wouldn't appear in the chart. So you always have to type right up against that for the outline to extend. I'm just going to add in some figures that will be in line with the figures that are there. So I'll put in 3, 4, 2.5 and 3.8 and I'll click away. And as I'm doing that, you see those extra columns arriving in. If I need to, I can make this bigger by going to the corner there, and when I get that double-sided arrow, click and drag, and I can add in more data as needs be here. If I'm removing data, remember it's only what's inside the line itself that will show up. So if I wanted to get rid of West, I would actually delete the row. If I want to get rid of Q4, I'll actually delete the column so that the line backs up. Okay, because I don't want to be left with a gap on my chart. But I'm happy with that. I'm going to close that down again. And then I want to get rid of the chart title. I can simply click on it. It's just a text box. I press delete on the keyboard and it's gone. If I changed my mind and I want that back, or I want to move the legend or any of those things that I want to do, I need to be working in this Excel mode with these tabs. So I make sure I have it selected, and on this chart design tab, I move over here to the left to add chart element. And if I want the chart title back, I can do so very easily by clicking on this one. Now I'm not going to click on it, but I can. If I want to move the legend, I would come down here and I can move the legend to the right. I can put it across the top, put it down the left, or I can take it off completely. Again, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to click out of this button. So all your choices are contained on these two tabs, and please be aware on older versions it might not have exactly the same name, but you will have a couple of contextual tabs, so it's just to look. It might be just called design as opposed to chart design. In this version, if you're used to it, you also have these extra little buttons out here, but anything that's on these buttons is also contained in here. So don't worry if you don't have them. But that's my chart created, and it's very, very easy, as you can see, to create the chart and to edit the chart. I'm just going to click into the title box and I'm going to type in chart and I'm going to click outside. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to look at putting in some photos. So I am going to look at creating a new slide. So I'm popping in, I'll go up to the top half of this and I'll put in my new slide. I want to create a photo I want to bring in a photo. So I am going to come down to this little button here. This allows me to bring in my pictures. I'm going to click onto that and it's going to bring me out and I've got these pictures set up and I'm going to bring in the koala. I absolutely love this picture, so I'm going to insert it in and bring in the koala. Now it comes in and it comes in nice and constrained. Whenever we bring in pictures, etc., in through these boxes, they come in constrained to the size of the slide, to the size of the lower part of the slide. If I try to bring that in through the insert tab, it'll just come in a lot larger. So my picture is in and now I'm going to take a look and see what I can do with it. Again, if the picture is not selected, I won't see the contextual tabs that I need to work with this. If the picture is selected, the contextual tab opens to the right of your menu. So the contextual tabs are always the last tabs that you'll see, but the item has got to be selected. In other words, it's got to be in the context. So I'm going to take a look at a few features here. I won't be using any of the features in the adjust group, but just to give you a quick run through and let you see them because they're quite nice to know that these exist. So first off, the corrections button. This is really handy if the picture you've brought in if the quality isn't as good as it could be. Now, this is a nice quality picture, so I'm not going to have any issues. But just to notice that up here at the top, this area deals with sharpen and soften, and this is the default. If I want to sharpen that, I'm going to go right to the other end so that you can see an obvious difference. And if I just rest my cursor on that, you're going to see that the picture sharpens quite a lot. And if I come away from that and I go to the opposite end, just rest my cursor and it will soften a lot. Now, the other thing you'll notice when you work with any of these buttons up here, just to mention, is that it takes a moment or two for it actually to apply. These features are really quite heavy on memory. So when you're working with them in real life, please make sure that you're saving your work regularly. Because if PowerPoint is ever going to crash on you, it's going to crash when it's using these features. So that's our sharpen and soften. Now down here we have our brightness and contrast, and the default is this one here right in the middle. So the brightness is at 0, which is normal, and the contrast is at 0, which is normal. But if I want to, I can bring it right up, or if I want, I can bring it right down. And there's different levels of brightness and contrast that I can use. Now, I find if I do have to adjust a picture, it tends to be just a little bit around the normal. It doesn't tend to be that dramatic, but it just lets you really see the difference by going on to these. Now, again, I'm not going to use any, so I'm just clicking that button back off. Now, the next button along is the color button, and the color button has 3 separate areas in it: color saturation, color tone, and to recolor. So again, if your picture is lacking in anything, you just might be able to make that up through this area. So the default for color saturation, you can see it's at 100%. It's this one here. If I want to add a lot of color, and again, I'll go right to the end so you can see the difference, and that's quite dramatic. Look, it's almost Disney-like color on that. I can go completely to the opposite, and I can just drain the color out of that. If I bring my cursor down, the color tone again, the temperature is at normal there. If I want to make it warmer, and maybe koala would like it to be a little bit warmer, I can make that image a lot warmer looking. Now again, I've gone to the extreme. but even just a little warmer can make a difference. I can do the opposite. I can make that a lot cooler, and I can nearly feel the koala shivering there, so I'm going to come off that one. The next one is the recolor area, and this is the default. And they've got some really nice colors area that you can, different types of colors that you can put on here. It's a matter of looking and seeing what works with your presentation. Some of them will not be nice. This is quite an interesting one because it's a washout, and washout is sometimes nice if you want to have an image on the screen, you want to be able to overwrite it with text, but you just want it there really in the background. You don't want it pushed into the foreground. That can be a really nice one. This one also lovely. This is sepia. Very easy to change, as you can see, and it looks absolutely great. But the default is this one. So again, I'm just going to, I'm not applying any of those, so I'm going to click the button back off. Now the next one along is the artistic effects. Now these can be very hit and miss. Some of them are lovely and some of them would be, would have you scratching your head a little bit. So just to show you, this is the first one is the default. One that I really do like is the pencil sketch. Now it takes a moment, but you can see it there. I think it's just, it genuinely looks real. It's just so well done. Really, really like that one. Another one that I like is this one, the one that's, it looks like it's behind glass. Again, it just looks so real, very, very effective. Then there are other ones that I wouldn't be as mad about. That's not bad as an etching. It certainly looks like what it's meant to look like. That's a photocopy. Now that's a light screen. I actually think it almost looks like an embroidered. It's the way that it's laid out. So there's some really interesting looks. It's a matter of going in and finding which one suits. I'm not putting any on, so I'm just going to click out of that. Now the last button I'll show you in the adjust group is the transparency button, and again very, very handy. This allows you to pick different levels of transparency, and I hope you can see this one. This goes right to 95% transparency. So very, very similar to what we saw in the color area where we had that washout, but this just gives you more scope, and so that you can be have different levels of that transparency. So again, just be aware that it's there, and I'm going to click that button off. So I've decided I actually would like to have a second picture in. I'm just here thinking I don't really want one picture, I want two pictures. So yesterday I showed you how you could change your slide, and I showed you could change the layout. Well, I just want to make sure you know that you don't have to have an empty slide to change the layout. You can change the layout of an existing slide. So if I go back to the Home tab and I go to the layout button here and I change, I don't want title and content anymore, I want to go to content. And if I click that, it's clever enough to know that needs to be adjusted and moved into one of the boxes, and now I've got another box that I can bring an image in, and it will constrain it to the same size as this one. So I'm going to use that same button again, and I'm going to bring in another picture. Now the picture I'm going to bring in this time, I think I'll bring in the desert. I think koala might like that, even though it's in America, not Australia, but we'll get over that. So I now have my second picture in, and I've decided that maybe I don't want quite so much of this area here at the bottom. So I'd like to crop the picture. So again, with the picture selected, I have that same picture format tab, but now it's pointing to this picture. And over here on the right, you have the size area, and I'm going to click on the crop button. Now I'm going to click on the top half, excuse me, and it's going to put the crop areas around the image, and I'm just going to place my cursor onto that bottom middle crop one, click, hold down the click and drag up, and you can see the area that I'm cropping off. So effectively I'm taking a scissor to it and I'm chopping that bit off. When I click outside, it chops it off, and then I can just click here and I can resize that down, and you can see as I was resizing it brought up lines there so that I knew exactly when I was in line with this picture here. So I've got rid of a bit of the picture that I don't want, and I'm happy with that. There's no part of this picture that I don't want, so I'm keeping every little bit of it. But what I am going to look at now is how can I make these pictures a little less flat? They're two lovely, lovely pictures, but they're incredibly flat on the page or on the slide. And when you put in pictures, there's absolutely no reason for them to be presented in such a flat and boring way. So I'm going to start off by selecting this little fella. And again, up pops the picture format contextual tab. And I'm going to go into the more button of this picture styles area. And I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to see by moving my cursor over this, which of these do I think would look nice in here. And there's so many different styles that you can pick from. They really are absolutely lovely. Depending on the picture, you pick the one that suits. And I quite like that one, that rotated white. So I'm going to pick that. And I'm going to do exactly the same for this one. So I'm going to give it the same style. I think that's it there. So yep, rotated white. But I'll just grab that and rotate it the other way. So that's better. It's again, it just takes the two pictures and it makes them interesting in comparison to the way they were. They're the exact same pictures, but again, the bit of shadow, the bit of tilt, it lifts them off the slide and gives them a bit of a 3D effect. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm going to click up here where it says click to add title, and I'm going to type in photos and click outside, and I'm really happy with that. I'm going to leave that slide as it is, and I'm going to move on to my next slide. So my next slide, I will pop up here and I'm going to click the top half. And of course, the next slide is going to copy whatever the last slide was. Now, I don't want to have this particular layout. So up to the layout button, and I'm going back to title and content. And this time, what I'd like to bring in is I'd like to bring in a video. And the video button is this little button here. So I'm going to click onto that, and I'm going to select this one here. So I'll click onto that. It's another Microsoft video, and I'm going to insert it into here. Perfect. Now I'm going to take a quick look at this. So I'll just play it here. So you can see the video itself is video about wildlife. It only goes on for, it's about less than a minute. And I'm going to just make some adjustments to that, because when that's played on full screen, I want to make sure that it looks the way I'd like it. So let's take a look at it on full screen. I'll come down here. It comes out exactly as you expect it to do. And I have to click that to make that run. And again, I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to escape out of there. So a few tricks working with video. Keep your video selected. You'll find that you've got two contextual tabs up at the top. Your playback tab is the one that I'm interested in at the moment. And the first thing I'm interested in is this. I don't want it to play when I click it. I just want it to play automatically. So if I go to the down arrow, I can choose automatically. And I know now that when I go to my full screen, it automatically sets off. And I'm just going to escape out of that and escape again. So the first escape stops the video running. The second escape takes you out. Now there's going to be a delay on this. It won't happen for you in real life, but because I'm doing a recording, there's going to be a delay. So just know that the next feature isn't going to work quite the way I want it to work, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. I like it to start automatically, and I also like it to play full screen. So I don't have to make it full screen. And I'm just going to go ahead now and I'm going to press the slideshow again. That's the delay. You don't see that delay in real life. So that was the delay. You don't get that delay of going to the smaller screen and then the full screen. In a real life scenario, you wouldn't even see the black screen. It would just go onto a full screen and starts immediately. This is one of those features you need to test yourself, but because I'm doing a recording and playing a video, it's delaying in the system. Okay, so it's literally just because of my own system here that's causing that issue. Now, other things that I want to show you, I'm going to turn off the full screen feature because the fact that it doesn't work properly is going to be extremely annoying. I'm going to turn it off. I'm just going to move that up a little bit. And if I wanted to play the video this size, I didn't want to go full screen, then what I would be looking at is going back to video format, and I'd be looking into these video styles, very, very similar to the photo styles. And you can get some really, really nice ones. And again, just run your cursor over them so you can see the different styles and find what suits your video. I have to say I love those rotated ones, but I won't use it in this one. I'll give you something a little different. I also like these ones, the bevels, the ones with the reflections, and they've another one there somewhere in white. It's right beside it there. And I like them because it looks like kind of like a TV screen or a computer screen. So I might try it with that black one. And just to show you what that would look like, I'll escape and escape. And again, I really like that. Could even move that up a little higher. And I love the way it reflects the movement down here. I think that looks really, really nice. Now, that delay about going in, as I said, the delay is part of my system, but there are things that you can do. So just to show you, if I wanted to, I could do things like trim the video. So it does start on black screen. If I want to make sure that there is no black screen to start on, I can choose trim video, and that's the start, that's the end. And if I drag in just a little bit to there, that means that's where it's going to start. So I just come in another tad. That's it. It's going to start there. I hate cutting out the horses. Yeah, that's why I'm doing such a mean little movement. I absolutely hate cutting them out. But that's where I'm going to do the cut. And I could do the same at the end. I'll just take a small cut there as well. And it just literally is cutting a tiny, tiny bit off. And I'm going to click OK. And that means that I'm not starting with a black screen. Also, with sound, etc., you rather than having it cutting in so tightly, what you can do is you can fade it in so that the picture fades in, the sound fades in, so that it's not a sudden shock when it comes on. And if you're finding that when it plays the volume is too high or anything like that, you can bring the volume down low, and you can control that from within here. So I'll just pop that up one more time and I'll let that go. And I'll escape and escape. I could actually sit there quite happily watching that for the day. So that's our video. Again, when you're putting a video in, if the video isn't quite the way that you want it, you can, of course, change it around. And you have those options on your two tabs. Now, just to mention with regards to cutting the video, you saw I could only trim it at the beginning or I could trim it at the end. I'm not able to get in with this software and do it in the middle. You would need proper video editing software for that, but it does give you that ability to just take off the beginning, take off the end, which is better than nothing. I'm not going to use the text box up here. I can leave it there. It doesn't show up, but equally I could just click on it and press delete on the keyboard. So if it bugs you, just get rid of it. Okay, so that's our videos. That's our 3 slides for today. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at animation. So we'll look at animating 2 of ours. We've already looked at the video, so we're happy enough with that. But I'm going to take a look at charts. Charts have a very special animation attached to them, so I want to make sure you're aware of them. So to deal with the chart, I'm just going to click on the chart like so. And when I click onto it, I'm going to move then over to our animations tab heading. And on that tab heading, I'm going to start working with the chart. And with chart, I think the fade transition is quite nice. So it just fades onto the screen. So you can see that there. And now I want to look at the effect options that I can do within that. And this is where charts are really super for animation purposes. You have multiple choices. The default is that the whole thing fades on as a single object as it just did there. But you can actually break it down, which is fantastic if you want to give a presentation and you want to be able to speak about individual items. So these are the 4 breakdowns that you get. So I'll just run through those. First, you have by series. So you can see that it brings in Q1, Q2, then Q3, then Q4. So if I was to just show you that on the full screen, my first click or press brings up the chart. The next one brings up Q1 for all categories. Then Q2, Q3, Q4. And again, I'll escape out of that. So it allows you to talk about them in that way. But if that's not what you want, then keeping that selected, you can come up here and you can say, bring it in by category. And that lets you bring in all the quarters for each category. So I'll just bring that in. I'll press to get the chart up. And then everything comes in, all quarters comes in for the north, and I can talk about that. And then I can press for the south. And again, I'll move quickly, east and west. And I'll escape out of that. Again, I can take it further. I can break it down even more. I can click here and I can say by element in series. And that allows me to bring in Q1 for the north and talk about that, then Q1 for the south and talk about that, and then the same for the east, the same for the west. And you can see the amount of individual animations that are taking place. So I'll go through it again just very quickly. And I bring on the chart and then I'll bring on the first one. And when I press again, it brings it on for the south. And I'll move through this nice and quickly, but I can then talk about each one individually. So I can break this information right down, and I'll escape out of that. And then the last one is to do it by each element within the category. And this will bring in Q1 for the north, then Q2 for the north, then Q3 for the north, then Q4 for the north, and then it'll move through the others. So again, I'll just bring that in and just show it to you in there, bring in the chart, and then the first one for the north, and then the second quarter for the north, and it's each element within the category. And I'll move through the other ones now nice and quickly. But again, depending on the way you want to discuss your information, you've got great choices within that chart animation feature. And I'm just going to escape out of that. Now I'm going to put that back to one object in case I'm going through the slides again later. It's less clicking for me as I'm going through this, and it'll be less boring for you. So the last area I want to look at is animation for our photos. So you can see that we've got 2 photos and they look fabulous, but I can make them look even nicer up on the big screen by bringing them in individually. So I'm going to click on to this one. And again, I think that fade animation, it's lovely. It's lovely and subtle. And of course, you'll find the one that you like. And if I click onto that, and then if I click onto this and do the same, I'll show it to you up on full screen, and then I'm going to adjust it. So I go up onto the full screen, and I have to click or press the down arrow to get this to appear, and then I click or press the down arrow to get the next one to appear. Now, that's absolutely fine. That suits the way that I want to work sometimes. But I want to make you aware that you can change that up a little bit. So, for instance, I can, if I want, set, say, this image, this particular photo, to automatically come in without me having to click. So if I click onto this one, I'm on the Animations tab, I've got Fade set, and if I look over here on the right-hand side into the timing area, again, it's set to start on click, and I can say, actually, I'd rather it came in after previous. Now, after previous means after this one. I don't want it to come in straight away. I want to delay it, so I think I'll delay it for about a second. And you can see the duration of it coming in lasts for about half a second, but it will delay for a second first, and then it takes half a second to appear on the screen. So let's take a look and see what that's like. So if I click onto that, I'm bringing the first one onto the screen manually. I just sit back and the second one comes on automatically. Now that's nice if you know what your timings are going to be. That can be really, really nice. What I could do is I could do the same with the first one and say, do you know what? Maybe I don't want to have to press the down arrow or anything like that. Maybe I would like to be able to walk away from the laptop while I'm talking about these photos. So I'll select the first one, and again, instead of on click, I could say with previous. Now, with previous simply means coming in with the slide. So with this particular slide. And again, I might delay that for a second. So I'll just bring that up. Now, if I delay that for a second, I want to delay this one for another second. So I up that to 2 seconds. So now I'm kind of looking at it saying that I just have to get onto the slide, and then I can just sit back and let the pictures appear by themselves. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click onto the slide, and then I'm not touching it. 1 second, one picture, 1 second, another picture. And this is the way that you can automate the different items. Now, I'm showing it to you on pictures because I think it really gets the point across. But of course, I can do this animation on any of the items that I have been dealing with already. So when you're looking at your animations tab heading, is don't just get pulled in by the actual animations themselves. It's take a look over here onto the timing side of things and have a look at the different features and play around with those different features. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through these slides very quickly from the start, remembering I've only got half an animation on this one, but just so that you can see them, and then we will finish up on that. So I'll go back to the first slide. I'm going to pop it up onto the full screen, and I'm going to click my way through each of the items in here. So we have 5 items if I remember right. And then I'm pressing, and you can use either the down arrow or the right arrow to move. Just be aware that if you use the left arrow or the up arrow, it'll go backwards. It'll go in the opposite direction. So I'm using the down arrow on the keyboard. It brings in project 1, and then I'm bringing in item A, and I'm bringing in item B. I'll now move to the next slide. I've no animation on this whatsoever. So next press moves to the next slide. I've no animation on this whatsoever. And again, worth animating. Any kind of graphics I think are always well worth animating. I come to the chart. Remember, I took down the animation. I just made it simple, and it's just fading the chart on in its entirety. So you can choose to do that, bring it on as a single item, or you can choose to bring it on in the different ways that we saw. The next one, I just press to get onto the slide. I don't need to do anything further. It'll bring itself on. Perfect. I'm now ready to move on to the next one. And the last one, remember, is the video. So I move on to that. And then if I press again, it's going to bring me to the black screen. I either click with my mouse to exit, or of course I press escape. And when I press escape, it'll always bring me out onto whatever that last slide was. So that completes today's taste of PowerPoint, and hopefully you got some insights into how these different features work and how the different slides can be used. And tomorrow, hopefully you'll be with me tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be looking very particularly at the slide master. The slide master is the area behind PowerPoint. So that's going to be the big look at tomorrow. And I'm also going to be showing you some extra little features when it comes to presenting. So thank you for today, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.